If you follow me on Twitter, one of the things that I shared was that I would be dropping a project a week, every single week, until something cool happened or until I run out of ideas. And the first project I dropped was Guru Catcher. You can watch that video. It's posted on my YouTube channel. But last week's project, which I'm doing a video on this week because I had some family over last week, is called Component Renderer. Now, the code of this project, the link is in the description. It's completely open source. And what this project is, it's a ShadCN component renderer. You can visualize your components and copy paste the code and use them how you please. So if you want to play around with it, you just go to cr.rosmike.xyz, and I'm going to give you a quick demo. So you have a couple options, right? You have a button, dialogue, accordion, alert, popover, and command. And basically the way it works is you're going to have some options here where, let's say I type subscribe now for the button text. You see it. You see the preview update live, and the code updates live as well. Subscribe now is here. And then I can change the variants. So there's different variants I can change. I can do destructive, outline, secondary, ghost, right? And then I hover, you can see that. And then link, when I hover, you can see that. And then I have different sizes. We have small, large, default. Let's do large. And I can show you what a loading state looks like. See, you have please wait there. And what I can also do is adjust the roundness. So I want you to check out the code right here. When I increase the roundness, you can see this inline style being added. You can see the preview being updated live. And what's even cool is I can use custom colors. So if I click use custom colors, right, and let's say I do red for background, you see it update live, and then I could do text color black. All I have to do if I want this code is to just click copy here, and now I have this code. And what this does is it allows me to visualize these components and see how exactly I want to tweak them. One thing I want to add is I want to add a field where you can add custom Tailwind CSS, so you can see that live and copy pasta however you please. Now let's look at maybe command, because this one's interesting. So with command, you can add groups and you can add items. So a group is basically, you see how suggestion is here, and suggestion contains calendar, search emoji, and launch. Suggestion is a group and calendar is an item. So let me remove everything, and now you have an empty command. Let's add a group. Let's call this tools, and let's add an item. Let's say jackhammer. Let's add wrench, and let's add water hose, right? So, and then if I wanted to add another group, I can add another group saying chicken. I don't know why, I'm kind of hungry. Chicken, and then I'll do Chick-fil-A, and then I'll do churches, chicken. And if I go back up, I can see it all here. And then all I have to do if I want this code is to click copy code. One more I can show is maybe accordion. Accordion is pretty cool. So like I have these accordions right here. Notice that only one drops at a time. If I do multiple drop at a time, right? And then if I want to add an item, I just say, this is an added item. 1, 2, 3. If I go up, I notice that this is added right here. And there's a multitude of components as well. Feel free to check it out. Again, it's cr.rosmike.xyz. But let's get into the code, because I know that's what you're here for. Now, this project was made using my starter kit, which I love to use to build new projects because I added this new configuration. Now, it looks simple, but one thing this allows me to do is if I want to build a simple project, but I don't want auth, payments, and blog, all I have to do is just go to config and make these all false. And though the files are there, it won't be visible, right? Which is awesome. So let's get into the code. I'm going to close the terminal here, and there's a couple things that are going on here. We have a components config object here, and this object essentially contains all the different components that are being rendered, and there's some configuration here. I'm going to go through each one. So you're going to have the name, the imports, right? So what needs to be imported. In this case, in case of button, we're importing button from ShadCN. And then we give we import the component as well, button. And then we have a render function. And this render function essentially renders out the button with all the props and the necessary styles that need to be added, right? So that's what the render function does. And then we have options. Options is what can be toggled and changed on the site. So you see this options section right here? That's what this array is essentially. So in here we have the children option, type text, label button text. The default is click me, which is why if I refresh the page, the default of button text is click me. And then we have variants for buttons, and then the different variants have different options: default, destructive, outline, secondary, ghost link. You have then size that has default, small, large, and then you have loading, which renders it renders this icon loader, and then we animate it here. And then you have roundness, use custom colors, which essentially, I don't know if you see this toggle right here. When I toggle this, this allows me to use custom colors, but if this is not toggled, then I can't. So that's what this does. And then we have background color and text color. So this metadata really controls the rendering options you have and the configuration of the component, right? And I do that for dialog, accordion, alert, popover, and command. And I will say this project of mine is really a great project of using different data types, not tapes, different data types, metadata, configs, and all that type of stuff. So highly suggest you check out that code. And then you have get icon, which basically has a couple of pre-configured icons that I use for the command. I have a color picker function, which basically renders out this color picker right here. Looks pretty nice. I believe I use Hex color picker, and that is from React Colorful. Great package, very easy to use. And then we have component renderer. So there are two states we track, the selected component and the component options. And then we have a use effect that basically updates every time the select component is changed, and it basically changes which component has been selected. So basically the use effect fires when I do this, right? Notice that when I select button, the button options show, the preview is a button, and the button code shows. That's what this use effect does. And then we have a couple functions. We have render option input, and basically this runs through a switch statement that checks. And basically where it checks from is this component, where is it right here? This component config right here. Notice how in options, there are types here: type text, type select, type boolean, right? Each option has a specific type. This type is then ran through the render option input. And let's say if the type is text, this input will be rendered. And that's why, to give you a simple example, if we go back to button and we go to options, we have type text for children, and the default is click me. If we go to the render option input, we see that an input is returned. And when we look at which one that is, that's this one right here, right? So the type is text, and because the type is text, what is rendered is the input component, and that's why the input is here. And then if I write my name, if I write whatever, it works, right? So that is render option input for you. It does, again, for the text, for the select, for a function, for slider, all that type of stuff, right? And then you have render component, and this basically selects which component to render, right? So like if it's a button, you need to apply specific class. If it's an item, then you might have array options that you need to break through. Again, this code is very, like, I had to spend some time to get this working. Shout out to Claude AI for helping me out, but this helps render the component. And in this function right here, get component code, is again another switch statement that renders the component code here. Right, so this code that's seen. Again, it's a switch statement. So in the case of a button, like I extract all the prop information that I have, and essentially what I'm doing is I am rendering this out right here. And you can see that there's a couple cases, like for example, if its loading is true, then it should be disabled, and this icon should be shown. So when I click loading state, that happens, this code updates. And that's what get component code does. And I believe I use this Where do I use this? Let's see. Yeah, I use this in the code. And then I also use it to copy to the copy clipboard. So when I click this is the code that gets copied. So get component code gives me the code I need that I can copy, paste, and use elsewhere. And then I have a copy to clipboard function. Pretty simple. This just copies the code to the clipboard so I can paste it, right? So just to prove this to you, this works. I click that. And then if I do Command V, there you go, right? Easy. So that being said, now we have our JSX. I have a page wrapper, which just wraps the page and adds an F bar. Pretty simple stuff, part of my starter kit. And then I render 3 sections. I render the options section. I render the preview section, which is this, and then I render the code section, right? So options, preview, and then code. And when you look at each, options basically has a select where you basically pick which component is being selected. So set selected component selects that component, which then fires this use effect to update the page, which is fantastic. So that's options right there. And then right here, we map through all the different options that should be available and shown. That's why render option input is running right here. So when a specific component is selected, you see all these different options. They're being mapped out, and render option input is what's rendering them. So that's that. And then you have the preview, which essentially is render component. And if we go back to render component, this basically renders the component live, right? So this is the preview that we see. Very important function. I highly suggest you look at the code and go through it. And then last but not least, we have the code, and this basically just fires off get component code, which renders out the code that I can copy. And then I have the copy to clipboard button that basically copies the code to clipboard so I can easily paste it. But that's pretty much it for this project. Again, very simple project, but the code can get a little dense. And I wrote it in a way that it makes it easier for myself or someone else to add even more components. So maybe challenge yourself. The repo is in the description down below. It's open source. Try adding a component. Pop this into AI. Ask AI some questions. Figure it out. I know a lot of people are saying AI is going to replace your job, or AI is pretty dumb. It can't do nothing. I'm more so in the middle where it's a great co-pilot. It's a great and a smarter rubber ducky. And that's how I use it. And I hope you use it. I hope this video brought you some value. Let me know what other projects I should make. Make sure to follow me on Twitter. Let's hit 10 million followers ASAP. I appreciate y'all. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Peace.